Hey, this is Harper Starling, and this is another great episode of ETX Rocks featuring Brigitte Mena.
From the unknown to the stars, from the couch to the car, from the unheralded and the unheard, to the legends and beyond, it's where we all belong. Yes, this is where it all starts. From every genre, from every plane, this is where the music's played. So tune right in, won't you bring a friend? This is where it all begins. Welcome to the show, let the music flow of every style and creed. And you can bet your socks that ETX rocks, ETX rocks.
Hey guys, you are tuned in to the #1 resource for independent music in Northeast Texas. It's episode 276 of the ETX ROCKS Show, and we have reached back into the DFW for some more absurdly talented folks. We have Brigitte Mena and her band of guys here. I guess they don't have a name for the band yet, so we're just calling them The Band. Apparently that's taken. I don't know. But I have to throw a shout out. I just found out that Simone Nicole is the reason why Bridgette's here, so thank you to you, Simone. One of my favorite songwriters ever. And if you haven't heard of Simone, check her out. Simone Nicole Music on Facebook. Shameless plug. But we have Brigitte in the house. She's from Dallas. And introduce the guys to us.
Why don't you introduce yourselves? Starting with James.
Okay. I'm James. I play drums.
I'm Austin and I play bass.
Paul, guitar, mostly lead.
I'm Brigitte, vocals, guitar, keyboard.
I'm John, I play guitar.
And so they have 3 guitarists, a bassist, and a drummer, which I was really interested in because I've been listening to Bridgette's music on and off since we scheduled this probably a couple months ago. And she has an album out. It's called Maslow. It's ridiculously good. Would you kind of term yourself like indie pop, indie rock, somewhere in there?
Yeah, pop rock, indie pop.
Yeah.
Like that.
Is there kind of a niche for that in Dallas, or do you struggle at all with finding a place to be?
I would say it's pretty popular right now, but I'd say that's kind of the struggle too because everybody's trying to do it.
Yeah.
Electronic music is pretty big right now too in the area.
Right. And they did bring their instruments today. We have a huge treat for y'all. If you're tuning in for the first time, the way we kind of film the shows is we always have them perform first and then we talk about it after. So the first song they're going to play today is actually on the album. It's called Refrain. Tell us a little bit about the song.
This was the first one that I wrote that kind of set the tone for the album. I was going through a really hard breakup and this song just kind of came out in one night. It's just kind of your classic breakup song, and it starts out with these guitar swells, and one of the first lines kind of talks about like the swell of the night, and that kind of bringing you back into a moment that you long for, and it just kind of plays on those swells throughout the song, and yeah, that's kind of how it's...
So I guess, I got to know, because every time I hear a concept album, which is what I think this is, right? I mean, this is really conceptualized around a subject. Mm-hmm. So when you're writing this, does that song come first? Was it the first one you wrote, or did some of these other songs come first?
This was the song that came first, and it's actually the first one on the album. It just kind of worked out. It's based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Right.
And so that lowest level is kind of the physiological needs, and so the song refers to suffocating a lot.
Right.
And so it kind of plays on not being able to breathe and lacking oxygen and feeling so, sad and depressed that you can't even, get to where you want to be in life. And so that's how it kind of fell into that lowest level, ironically.
It's cool stuff, and we're going to be talking a lot about the record. I know you're probably really proud of it. It's your first one. Mm-hmm. And but live and unplugged here in the living room. Well, almost unplugged. Austin was plugged in. Damn bassist. But it's almost unplugged here in the living room. It's Refrain by Brigitte Mena and the band. Y'all check it out.
Sun
All right, so we are back, and again, the record here, it's called Maslow by Brigitte Mena. It's her debut album, and just a immaculate piece of work for an independent artist.
Thank you.
You had to put a lot of work into this album. It's got 8 songs on it, so it's not an EP. It's closer to a full album than an EP. So you were mentioning before the song that you wrote Refrain first. Mm-hmm. When did you decide that this was going to be a concept album rather than just a collection of songs?
After I wrote Maslow, which you'll get to hear, I was kind of intrigued with this idea of going through those 5 layers of his hierarchy of needs. And I've always really been into psychology.
Right.
I actually went to school for psychology. And so after I wrote that song and referenced his name, I thought, well, it seems like all of these feelings I'm kind of in all these layers of this, triangle I'm kind of going through right now. And so after I wrote Maslow, because I wrote Maslow right after Refrain, I thought, hey, I'm going to try a concept album, and that's kind of how it came.
And the concept being psychology, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the concept
Yeah.
of the album. I think it's brilliant. I mean, psychology is not an art; it's a science. But at the same time, it's real close to being art if you think about it,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're putting it to music like this. So you're bringing these other guys in on the project. Did they all play on this as well, or?
No, they did not. I actually recorded this with one other person, and then I brought them in to kind of make this music come to life. I originally was going to just perform these songs solo, but I couldn't put out this album and not play it, to its fullest extent, and so.
And I imagine when you get into a studio as a solo artist, because you did play a lot of solo gigs, I imagine at that point, you have to have that sound behind you. Otherwise, it doesn't feel the same as the music does on the album. So what are they bringing to the table when it comes to practicing these songs and all of that? So I imagine they're bringing their own input to it, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say when we perform them live, they're a little bit different. They do a great job at, pretty much making it, right up to where the album is heard.
Yeah.
As far as they play all those parts, but one thing I want them to be able to do is add their own creative expression, and so that's kind of where we're going forward. I would say with the next album. I just brought a new song to them that we're currently working on right now and letting them have 100% control over
That's awesome.
what they want to play.
And the reason why I asked that is because just listening to you guys play here, it was really neat to hear the song come to life in a live setting, because you get different feelings from that than you would from a produced version of the song. Mm-hmm. So I imagine that's a lot of their own, intricacies coming into the music that way. So when how did you guys meet?
I would say I've known James the longest.
Yeah, probably.
Funny story how I met James. So one of the apartment complexes I was living in at the time, gosh, was that 4 years ago?
2014.
Yeah. I just got this new apartment, and I was talking to the guy who was, getting me all set up. And he was asking me what I do, making just some casual conversation. So I started talking about how I was in a band at the time, and we were looking for a drummer. And he's like, oh, well, I know this guy, James Roy, he's great, I'll, give you your contact info. So he came to a practice, and, we started that other band. And then after that band kind of ended, James and I, stayed friends, kept doing music.
You stole their drummer, is what you're saying.
Well, it was actually a band that we were both in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so after that, I needed a drummer, and James is the first person I went to, obviously, and so that's how I met James. Austin and James are in another band together, and that's kind of how I met Austin. Paul too. Yes, I won't leave you out.
Yeah.
Sorry, I won't leave you out.
So you guys have multiple projects going on
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Is it all different genres, or how is that working?
Yeah. I think it's safe to say that it's kind of covers a couple different genres.
The band that us three are in is a little bit different from Bridget's stuff.
What is it? I gotta know.
Heavy alternative rock.
Yeah, it's like alternative rock, but it has a little bit of an edge to it sometimes. It's pretty big and pretty, I guess ambient. Ambient. And,
yeah.
I don't know, you have a good word to describe it?
Bad.
Bad.
I think we found our talkative one, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm just Just move on from there.
Just move on from it. Bad is the answer.
No.
That's the final answer. No need to pass go.
That's why we play for
none of
Brigitte
that
Mena.
stuff.
So this is why we play
Yeah,
for
so
it.
there-
Well, you guys are going to have to send me something. I want to hear it now.
Yeah.
So
We're in
definitely
the,
send me
in
something.
the studio, I
Yeah.
guess, right now.
Very cool.
Yeah, we're also recording, so.
So, Bridget, what are some of your main influences? Because I mean, you're still a young artist, and it's indie pop. It's not. I mean, Texas is known for country music. Let's be honest. But man, we've had some pretty big stars come out of the state in pop music too, from Jessica Simpson and Beyonce, people like that. So, who are some of the folks that made you want to jump into this genre as opposed to say country?
Well, I would say instead of kind of answering this specific genre, I say some artists I really look up to. Phoebe Bridgers, kind of more on the acoustic side. I discovered her about a year and a half ago. She's amazing. Julian Baker I look up to a lot, and Courtney Barnett. She's kind of...
It's a real intimate
Yeah.
kind of vibes.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you have to be able to have a feeling with the music. Is that where you're at?
Yeah.
And so are you trying to kind of emulate that and just add your own flavors to stuff? Or, I mean, what's the plan artistically?
I'm all about the raw experience. In my lyrics, I don't necessarily try to make everything rhyme if it turns out great, but I'm all about just, writing from what I'm currently feeling, and, if nothing comes out, I'll put the song away and come back to it. So I want it to be, the true feeling that is there, as opposed to being so stuck on, the structure of the song.
Right.
Or...
Structure can be a double-edged sword for a songwriter. Because sometimes you can't get from A to B using structure to get there. Sometimes you need that edginess in your song, because that's the only way to kind of transpose the emotion you're feeling. If you're trying to write within rules, then the emotion can kind of fall by the wayside. Do you feel some frustration along the way with that?
Yeah, definitely. I went to school for music too, and so sometimes, I'm going back and forth between theory and, what I've learned, but what I've learned I don't always put into what I'm writing.
Right.
Songwriting is so different than, the classical composition or something like that. Sometimes I don't even know what chords I'm playing, so it's just like what I hear, if it sounds good and if I like it,
Yeah, I think it's a good answer, and that's why I wanted to ask you that, because I knew about, with your questionnaire talking about going to school for that, psychology, things like that. You're a very intelligent girl on top of being a musician. Sometimes those don't line up, as you know. I don't know about these guys, but so...
They're also very dumb. I'm kidding.
You see that, guys? What that was is I threw her a lob ball, and she hit it out of the park.
He's not impressed.
So, from a live setting, I know, we talked a little bit about how it sounds produced, and then we hear how it sounds live here. So, what are you trying to do as a live performer in getting your sounds out at a gig or something like that? And how does that differ from being in the studio?
I mean, we try our best, I would say, these guys especially, to emulate the sound that you hear on that album. But at the same time, when you're working with different musicians than what is recorded on there, you're going to have their own flavor, which I am very strong about too. I want them to feel like they can add their own take on it, because I've been involved in projects where people are sticklers and, it's like one person leading it. And as much as I feel like I lead this too, I want our next album to really be more of a group effort.
Yeah.
And let them kind of take more ownership.
What's great too is the layers within your sound. You've got the 3 guitars, you've got the bass, you've got the drums. There's so many different layers of music to get through, and then the lyrics are just an emotional layer in themselves. It's just awesome, man. I was telling our producer off air that, man, I wish y'all lived closer. Like, there's nothing like y'all here in East Texas. And I think the first thing I said to her was, I'm glad we're moving closer to Dallas. Like, we're fixing to move an hour west of here, so we'll be a little bit closer to shows like y'all. What's the music scene like in Dallas for not only a solo artist, but also bringing the guys together for a full band show?
You want to take that one?
Music scene in Dallas is exploding right now. Austin has always been kind of in every other part of the country, talked about as the live music capital, but straight up, like, Austin is not growing any right now. If anything, they're pretty stagnant.
I agree.
Dallas is exploding right now. Every restaurant that's coming up right now is making sure that they've got a spot where they can have live music. All the bars are doing the same thing. Restaurant owners are just itching to get booking agents involved. They're trying really hard to get music incorporated because people in Dallas want to see live bands. They're drawing more and more people to venues. We've got a couple of brand new venues that have only been built in the last few years that are just beautiful, state-of-the-art, like Gas Monkey Live. They just revamped a couple of the places in Deep Ellum. And the music scene's exploding. People care about live music again.
It's pretty open to all genres there, too,
Absolutely. Right? So, like, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there was this huge metal scene in Dallas, and there were a few pretty big metal bands that came out of Dallas. They were very successful, and that was kind of where people were like, oh, all the Dallas bands are metal bands, and now we've gotten into more indie artists, and it's really spread out into pretty much any genre under the sun.
Yeah.
And
some of the best indie artists I've ever heard have come out of DFW.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. The songwriting there is, I don't know what the hell what they have in the water there, but and the songwriting's great.
Alcohol. Lots of
alcohol. Man, no wonder why so many people live there.
On that, with it being so genre inclusive, everybody's just kind of around every other sound, so you get influenced by that. Like you have exposure to more than just one kind of scene.
What does that do to you guys on a creative level, just knowing you have that freedom to be who you really are?
It's challenging, actually.
Really?
Because I mean, it seems like really fun, but at the same time, like I was probably the odd man out of this band. I was the last person to be added in, and most of my electric guitar playing is blues rock.
Okay.
And it was a really big challenge for me to dive into her style because it was foreign to me, and it took a lot of work for me to kind of meld in with her sound. But I've kind of fallen in love with it. But it has been really challenging to find that middle ground where my blues rock roots fit into this indie pop rock thing that she's got going on. But man,
does that require compromise from both sides?
Mostly from mine, because she's very much a visionary of where she sees this going. But
so you basically just acknowledge the brilliance for what it is and just try to
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I got into this because I was a fan of her work, not because it was a perfect match.
Right.
And that was more important to me, that I enjoyed what I was doing.
That's awesome, and we have that on tape.
That's one of the nicest things people have said.
So what does that feel like to hear something like that from one of your own bandmates? That it's you're the point of the arrow, and he's just trying to follow your lead.
It's cool, but I don't even know how to respond, to be honest. It's a compliment I've never received before. I hope to do the same thing too, though, and I have a bit of a sometimes control freak method. Like he said, I do have a vision, and I am constantly thinking about the next big thing that I want to accomplish. But sometimes that can get in the way. Being in a band is very different than being a solo artist. You have to learn compromise, and I would say I struggle with that a lot. But I would say being involved in projects in the past has really helped me kind of let go of that control and trust in who I'm working with, and that's why I brought them on. I believe in them.
Do results help you with that? In other words,
definitely.
you're forced to make a compromise, and then you see the result of that compromise, and it's badass. So now you're like, hey, that worked out pretty damn well. I think I should compromise more.
I especially think that with this new song we're writing, I just brought this acoustic song to them and just told them, play whatever you want. And the whole time.
Was there like a sound like, and then they all looked at you like that, like the sitcoms?
I don't know, but what they're doing so far is awesome, and I was just smiling the whole time. So,
Was that you just not wanting to kill somebody, trying not to scream?
busting out a couple licks in not great spots.
Not great spots. That's awesome.
This is so good, yeah.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. I'm so sad. No, that's not what I'm going for. I'm not going for Carnival there. But does that happen a lot, especially when you're bringing in, new guys to the mix or whatever, you're trying to find a certain thing because it's your song.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's your song, so you have a vision for the song. But each of these guys are playing their own individual parts. You're not a bassist, you're not a drummer. So the drummer and bassist might know their parts better than you do. So how does that work out from the songwriter point of view?
I've worked with most of these guys before. And so I kind of, the whole reason I asked them to join this is I know their talent, I know their commitment, I know them. And so, this band has been way easier than any band I've ever had, because I know their capabilities and I know what they want, to contribute.
Well, I know the commitment's there.
Yeah.
They're in East Texas on a Sunday. Y'all live in Dallas. There's 5 of y'all.
Yeah.
She said in the email, we're going to have 5 pieces there. And I was like, okay, they live almost 3 hours away. There's no way all 5 are going to show up. And yet here they are. So the commitment's there just from today. I mean, this takes a lot of time and effort just to sit with us for 90 minutes or whatever. And I definitely appreciate that, by the way. But that's going to show to you as the front person, yeah, that commitment is there. That's going to be a cool thing, man.
Yeah, it is, because I feel like being a musician, that's something a lot of us struggle with, is
Absolutely.
being committed. I feel like when you hear a project you really want to be involved in, it's like, but then you got another project going on, it's like what gives and takes, and then
everybody's dream is different,
right,
too.
and then you're affecting other people's goals and what they want to accomplish, and it's difficult, which is why I originally intended for this to be 100% solo, but I quickly found I really don't like playing by myself.
Yeah.
And these songs sound way cooler with everybody else, and
the layers is important.
Yeah.
I think just hearing today for the first time, I can't get over just the depth of the music, especially Vignette, which you guys are going to hear next a little bit later on, probably about 10 minutes. Y'all don't go anywhere, but there's a lot of depth in that song. There's a lot of different working parts in the song, way different than what I heard on the record. So, you wrote the song, produced it on a record in a studio. You almost have to rewrite it for instruments, don't you?
I would say, I don't know. I mean,
There's a lot of learning
yeah.
by ear and
Yeah.
just putting it in a DAW and running over the same 15 seconds,
Yeah.
30 times in a row until it got it close.
Actually, Vignette was the easiest one for me to learn. That was actually the closest to my natural style of any of the songs on the
That
record.
doesn't surprise me at all. Just
That
watching you
one
play
was
it.
like, I learned that one in, maybe 20 minutes, and all the other songs took me longer, 22 minutes.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Vignette was the easy one for me to learn, and that's the most, for me, that was the one I have the most fun playing at first, and the other songs are catching up, but Vignette's, I like that one.
Do you guys as musicians, do you have any struggle in trying to connect to someone else's songs on a performance basis?
Not this project.
Not this project.
I'd say
I love these
occasionally.
songs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that there's always space for that whenever you're performing on somebody else's project.
But you say not this project, so that means there has been that struggle
Yeah.
before.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
I've been in a handful of things where it wasn't working out. He brought up, I guess, 10 or 15 years ago, there's the metal scene in Dallas, right? I was in a hardcore band that
Same.
it was kind of cool, and it was some of the most technically challenging, guitar work that I've even, since then been a part of, and in that way it was cool, but I don't listen to hardcore music, really. I don't vibe with that. I didn't like the vocalist or what he was going on about, so it was a chore, and I eventually left that band. Classic rock band too, though I like classic rock if I've had a few beers. It's not fulfilling, I guess, personally.
Yeah.
This stuff is just cool. It's interesting. There's a lot of fun chord shapes, and the layers specifically, I feel like one small part of a whole big old picture,
Awesome.
There's a lot to feel good about when you get it right, too.
Yes.
That's
like
cool.
When everything comes together, like, and you hear it all, like, and you're like, man, we were all on that.
Yeah.
Like,
That
it's
album
really cool.
release was pretty
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
So I'm not a musician. I'm using the right damn terms, by God. I'm so proud of myself. Sorry. Just had to say that. I've been trying to get, like, I've never played an instrument in my life in key. Like, I've attempted to, like, for pictures or something. You know, but, so just trying to learn the technicalities of stuff as an interviewer is tough. So when I get it right, I have to give myself kudos.
I can
So-
play the note blocks on Minecraft. And that's
Well, when I say the word layer, and then he says the word layer, and I'm like, yes, he just like gave me a step up, man. That's a guitarist that said that. Anyway. All right, so I know one thing that you have struggled with over the years is writer's block, and we've talked to a lot of songwriters over the years, and I know everybody's process is different. Some people feel like they're a conduit, like the words or the melodies just come out of thin air. Other people, they hear a line, or maybe it's on TV or something, they have to write it down right away. What's your process like?
Well, when I have writer's block, well, I experienced it right before I wrote this album. The band that we were involved in broke up, and I was just like devastated. You know, I loved that band, and I didn't know what to do. You know, I was out writing on my own again. Nothing good came out, and you know, I didn't know what to do. And I think I've learned, you know, when you're going through that, to learn that it's okay. Everybody goes through it at some point. Because have that natural like control tendency, I wanted to be like, no, I'm gonna write something, but it was all terrible, and then I
So
just
there's a lot of self-pressure on yourself?
yeah. And you know, I went from being in a band to, you know, writing on my own, so that was kind of like a weird transition for me again. But you know, I've kind of learned, you know, when you're going through that, to just accept it, and you know, after that I got this album, and so it's okay, and it's just natural. And
it's a badass album. One of the best CDs I've heard this year, and I've
Thank
heard
you.
a lot of music in 2018, I promise. I love it because it's not your typical red dirt country song, and we've had a lot of red dirt country artists on the show, and that's okay because it's Texas. But when you emailed us, I was super stoked that you did, because we're a fan of the rawness, the organic feel of music, without all the pajazz or whatever you want to call it, just getting down to basics basically of the music. And so when I heard your EP when you emailed us, I was blown away. I don't know if you realized how quickly I responded to your email, but it was like you sent the links and I was right back at you like within 5 minutes. You remember that? So yeah, I was super stoked. Anytime we get someone that's non-country on the show, I'm really, really stoked about that. So definitely want to thank all of you guys for spending some time with us and setting up and playing for us. Again, we're very low budget. We're in our living room. That's no joke. I know it may not look like it on camera, but definitely in a double wide trailer in our living room. Very happy to have Brigitte Mena here with the rest of the guys. But you are going to play another song. The next one is called Vignette. We've been talking about the song a little bit. Tell us how this one came to be.
This song is actually about my dad, and he actually recently passed, but I wrote this song before that. And growing up, he was an alcoholic, and so this song's about that constant struggle of wanting a relationship with someone who's, you know, struggling with alcoholism, but knowing the effects of having that relationship and not being able to fully feel like you have your dad there. And so this song is just kind of about that back and forth, and wanting to have a relationship with somebody, but then knowing that relationship has a lot of negative feelings and that it's not 100% healthy for you to have. So that's kind of how this song came to be.
Yeah, and what's cool is it's the second song on the album too, so you start with the refrain, you go right into Vignette. It's completely different subjects, but it's along the same lines of struggling with inner demons, and it just continues on through the record. It's almost like a trip through your subconscious, isn't it?
Yeah, this song references that second layer of safety, and so it just kind of talks about like that, you know, internal being of not feeling safe. You know, you don't have your dad there, and you know, that's supposed to be like the figure that's always keeping you safe, and you know, and so that kind of fit right in with that second layer of the triangle.
Yeah, very cool. And so it's live and almost unplugged here in the ETX Rocks living room. The song's called Vignette. Y'all check it out. It's the one and only Brigitte Mena.
Little girl, hold tight, you're alive and well, somewhere he'll pour one more than it will be a fall, so he'll say.
So we are back once again. We are going to take a quick break, though, so y'all check out this quick message from an independent artist.
We are Sweet Chaos.
And thanks for tuning in to the ETX ROCKS Show.
All right, we are back. It's episode 276 of the ETX ROCKS Show. We are starting the last quarter of our season 3, which means we have 24 episodes left after this show. I've been kind of hinting at what our season finale is going to be. I'm going to just tell y'all we're going to be live at the Texas Country Music Awards at the Will Rogers Auditorium, which I think is in Fort Worth. Going to be live. That's going to be our season finale. We've already got Doug Supernaw lined up, Brandon Ryder, Bree Bagwell, Curtis Grimes, a bunch of other folks are going to appear on that show. So make sure you're subscribing wherever you're watching or following, because that's going to be a really cool show. We're going to have probably 8 to 10 artists on there that are going to stop by the booth and talk to us. So if you're a country music fan, definitely check that show out. But once again, we have Brigitte Mena here. All right, so if folks are hearing about y'all for the first time, where can they follow along with your social media and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can follow on Facebook, Brigitte Mena Music, Instagram, same thing, Brigitte Mena Music. Also got a new website, BrigitteMena.com. Spell that out for you, BRIGITTEMENA. It's a bit of different spelling. But yeah, you can check us out there.
Definitely check out the webpage too. It's really well done. I don't know who did that for you, but did you?
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you, Squarespace.
Yeah. Well, see, we use
Shameless.
We use WordPress, and it took me 6 months to learn how to do it.
Sponsor us, Squarespace.
Yeah, right? Come on. Hook a brother
Sponsor
up.
everybody else.
Yeah. I don't know. I think web page design is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Yeah, it took me a hot minute, but I would say Squarespace, because I've used WordPress, Wix. It's not user friendly, and Squarespace made it so easy. I mean,
I'm gonna have to check it out.
You like literally just you get a template, and then that's the best part is because they have music pages, so they already have things set up where you can insert your album, insert different media that you want. You just have to change that, but the template is fully there, and it's great.
Yeah. I wish we could. If we ever have a team, that's the first person I'm hiring is a webpage graphic designer or something like that. Because I hate doing it, just updating things. Because we're filming 3 to 5 shows a week here, so it's like every other day I have to update something on the page, and I hate it. It's such a chore, just keeping everything up to date. So if I take 2 weeks off, we're like 8 shows in the past now. You know what I mean? And if I take a month off, by God, I've got like 3 hours of work to do on the webpage now. So I know how that is. We have new music coming. You keep talking about a new song that's working. Or y'all are working through?
Yeah, we're working on a new song right now. Hopefully we'll be playing it at our next show, maybe. I don't know. We've still got some things to work out, but I mean, it's coming along. I definitely think we can have it ready for our next show.
And you guys are predominantly performing in the DFW area, or do you get out of that area some as well?
Pretty much DFW right now. I mean, my goal is to do a tour maybe in a year or so, but
cool.
Yeah, right now.
And again, the album is called Maslow. It's MASLOW, and I assume this is available everywhere: Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that jazz. Yes. If you could send people one place, where would you send them, just to keep everybody lined up? Would it be Spotify? Would it be Apple Music?
It should be Spotify, because that's the
most
industry
popular.
uses the metadata from that for everything.
Right. So Spotify, and hit the follow button. I can't say this enough. Spotify is great for streams, but really the artists, they have the follow button on there. It shows how many monthly listeners and things like that. That is really important to venues, to labels, all of that stuff. The numbers on Spotify are kind of like the king of all social media nowadays, and I don't particularly agree with it, but it's the way it is. So hit that follow button. It really doesn't hurt you at all. All it does is tell you when she has new music available on there. And if you're a fan, that's a good thing. Also, if you're a big fan of Brigitte's, and a lot of artists don't even know that you can do this, but if you have your Spotify app and you're a big fan of Brigitte's, go to bed. You're not using your phone when you're sleeping. You guys use your phone when you're sleeping?
No.
All right, so just put it on Spotify, create a playlist with all of Brigitte's songs, hit play, mute your phone, put it on the dresser, boom. And then you can hit like the loop button or whatever, and it'll just start it right over. And so what you're doing is you're actually you're streaming her songs over and over again while you're asleep. Pretty smart, right? We don't do that with this show at all. Yes, we do. But no, we just got on Spotify, so I'm learning all of that stuff. It took us 2 years to get on there, so we're pretty stoked about it. But yeah, Spotify is an interesting beast for sure. But you also have physical copies of the CD, clearly, because I'm holding one. I assume the physical copies are available on the webpage and probably at shows, or?
I have not set them up on the webpage yet. That's coming, but definitely at shows.
All right, so you're going to have to go to a show, a Brigitte Mena show, to pick up your copy of this. If you're an old-timer like me that has to have something in my hand, she'll be on the wall here hopefully very soon, within probably the end of the day. We're going to get all of these guys to sign it, so you guys will be able to see this. And for you fans out there, see if you can pick it out on the next episode. It's always a lot of fun. Maybe we'll play Where's Waldo or Where's Bridget or something like that. We'll hashtag Where's Bridget. So once again, it's episode 276 featuring Brigitte Mena. First time on the ETX ROCKS Show. Definitely want to thank you guys for taking the time and effort to come visit with us today. and an open invite. So whenever you guys have new stuff to talk about, come on back. We'd love to see you again, for sure. And if you're out there and you're tuning in for the first time, you can follow along with everything we have going on. We are located at ETX Rocks. That's on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We are currently producing 3 shows a week, but that in August is going to jump to 6 shows a week, I think. Is it 6? I think we're going from 3 to 6. Or I know it's going to be 20 plus per month. We've got the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show that's produced every month. We have Down in the 903 with Mr. Hamlin. That's our new rap and hip hop show that's going to be every single month. We have Mr. Lee coming to that show, producer, engineer that's worked with Kanye and a bunch of other rappers that I don't know their names, to be honest. Little Kiki, is that one? Yeah, Little Kiki. Sounds right. Mr. Hamlin, help a brother out, man. Come on. We also have Livewire with Chris Sheehan, which is going to be heavy metal, hard rock, punk rock, anything rock and roll is going to be on that show. We have The World According to Eddie, which is going to be cutting edge. That show is going to be about cosplay and politics and whatever Eddie feels like talking about. God help us. Send all your hate mail to Eddie. We'll have an email set up for that. No, we won't. But we have a bunch of shows coming up. Oh, we have a snake show coming up, too, called Snake Sense with Jeremy. We're going to have copperheads and cottonmouths on the show. They're going to be like special guests. I don't know if they're going to be celebrity snakes or not, but we're going to find out. We started going on herping trips and catching venomous snakes. It's a lot of fun. Wear boots. You don't have to wear boots when you watch the show. It's completely safe, I promise. But that show will hopefully be coming out in August as well. All right, the best way you can help us out is by hitting the subscribe button if you're watching there on YouTube. Also hit the like button. That'll let us know that you enjoy the show or like the show. See how that works? But subscribe, please. That's the best way you can help us. Make sure you don't hit the button twice, though, because if you hit that button twice, we're going to charge you a surcharge of $16.88 in drachma. I don't know where that's currency at, but I read that in a book somewhere once. I'll look it up after. That's what Google's for. No, we tell them not to do that because if you hit the button twice, you unsubscribe, and that's no bueno. That's called bilingual. But anyway, so hit the subscribe button. Apparently there was also a bell there somewhere over to the right of subscribe. Hit that bell as well. I don't know what it does, but y'all can comment down below, tell me what it does. Also, we're going to make sure we have Brigitte Mena's webpage in the comment section or the description below, so all you have to do is click on it and go right to her webpage, listen to the music, purchase the music, all that stuff. You get to see where she's playing. Again, that's BRIGITTEMENA.com, so make sure you go there. Make sure you're hitting follow or like on her Instagram and Facebook. You have a Twitter as well?
No Twitter.
No Twitter. Smart girl. My Twitter, they're going to film westerns there because it's like a ghost town. You know? Thank you.
Yeah.
We brought a drummer. He'll be here twice a week. Also, it's viewers and listeners like you out there that help us stay on the air. So we have set up a donate link at www.paypal.me/ETX Rocks for you guys to help out. Every single dime y'all send us goes right back into the production of the show, whether it's to pay our podcasting fees or our webpage, which we finally have a new webpage. Also, we are completely low budget, so we'd love to upgrade our stuff, for sure. Someday we're going to own a camera, an actual, honest-to-God camera. It's not going to be a smartphone anymore. It's going to be cool. It's going to be bigly. It's because of y'all's donations out there that we have set up a brand new webpage. It's located at www.etxrocks.show. Make sure you hit .show, not .com. And we have over 10,000 hours of live music content on there. You'll find every single episode linked up. And we have a live internet radio playlist there at your fingertips with every single live performance ever performed on the show. By the time Bridget and the guys get home tonight, their songs will already be in that internet playlist. So make sure you're checking that out. There's over 400 songs in that playlist. Did you hear the accent? 400. So yeah, ETXRocks.show. It's a very cool place to be. Make sure you check that out. As we always say on this show, we want to thank you guys out there for always supporting live music of all genres and all styles And don't ever forget,
ETX rocks!
That's right. Thank you all for watching.
Days like today confirm how unhappy I am. Everything encompasses nothing. Nothing. Oh. And I live each day with a pain in my stomach that's burning. Scars in my organs.
From the unknown to the stars, from the couch to the car, from the unheralded and the unheard, to the legends and beyond, it's where we all belong. Yes, this is where it all starts. From every genre, from every plane, this is where the music's played. So tune right in, won't you bring a friend? This is where it all begins. Welcome to the show, let the music flow of every style and creed. And you can bet your socks that ETX rocks.